you go. Got it. Okay, so the next item that I did want to discuss was sort of the bigger item of why I wanted to do this, why I wanted to get in here was to discuss the responses that we received. So everybody should have gotten an email from me that had the summary spreadsheet of the bill. And if you have that, and if you want to share it, go ahead. Why don't you go ahead and do that?
You see that? Can you see it?
I can. Yes, I can. Yep. The summary spreadsheet. So again, that got sent out to everybody. I'd asked everybody to kind of, if you had some time to take a look at that, and you know, be sort of, you know, if everybody's ready to, I'd like to kind of discuss, you know, everybody's thoughts on both the sort of the quantity, the quality of those responses, and, you know, to really get feedback from everyone on if you think that's, you know, was the feedback we received helpful? Is it complete? And I'll go with, you know, my comment was we had some folks who answered a ton of things, and some of which weren't even theirs. And then we had some other folks that kind of did what we'd asked, which is, you know, limit it, take on a handful of things, whether it be 2 or 3 or 4 things, and, you know, make notes of those, and, you know, effectively, you know, provide feedback on those items. And with that, I'm gonna shrink my screen here so I can see what Bill has posted. Bill, yeah, I think if you can scroll, it's going to be kind of small on the screen, I think. I guess I'll open up. Oh, go ahead. Yeah, I think you need to scroll to the right to be able to see the responses. But I guess first item will be, you know, we can go in order, or, you know, if folks had a chance, I guess let me ask a question. Did folks generally have a chance to look at the responses that we received and sort of digest them? And I'm going to apologize now because I think all of my, thanks, Susan. I see Susan just responded in the chat. Yeah, I can't see people. Let me see if I can fix that. Exit full screen. Gallery. There we go. I got my gallery back up here so I can see everybody. So Susan didn't have a chance, not to pick on people, but in order on my screen here. John or Andy, did you guys have a chance to flip through them?
I did.
Andy's telling me okay. John, I know you and I caught up a little. Oh, who did I miss there?
Jason,
Brian?
I'm not sure if I received this, or maybe I wasn't looking at the spreadsheet right.
Okay.
No, I don't think I received this document either. If you send it on email, it's not in my inbox.
Neither have I, Zarmont.
Oh, it went out when we sent the original invite. I think it may have been on there. It may have missed it.
Oh, okay. I gotta look to see if it was attached. Okay.
Yeah, let me take a quick look because I think Bill, I'd send it out also.
Yeah, why don't I send it to everybody in the meantime while we're here? Again, so they can
Yeah,
have
why
it.
don't you go ahead and resend it, and I guess
Is this the one from August 11th?
Yeah, I think
I
it
believe
was.
so.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
I do have that then, but yeah, it is. That was, yeah, you know, two months ago. 3, 2.
Yeah, unfortunately, unfortunately, it was supposed to. Well, it took me much longer to get it out to everybody, and then unfortunately, it was supposed to be for our meeting a little over a month ago. But I discovered our friend COVID for a couple of days and was was not super functional. So hence we kicked this out another couple of weeks. I guess what I'd say is I encourage folks that if you can take a look through. I think our the next thing I'd kind of like to discuss at a future meeting is sort of how did we get our data back? Sort of really how do we feel as sort of the master plan implementation committee? I will get that out, I promise. As the committee, do we feel like the work has been done and the responses we got, are they in accordance with, what we are trying to do as sort of the group that is sort of shepherding, getting these goals to be accomplished, getting people to work toward these goals. So that's sort of the feedback that I'd be looking for, probably in a future meeting. Unless folks would like to discuss that now. Like I said, I know we did get some feedback. For instance, I can start with DPW. DPW provided a lot of feedback. They sort of responded to almost every item that was under their purview. But the general response to a great number of those was, we don't have the budget to address this right now. And I guess I'd be curious people's thoughts. My thought there was, I'd rather see you tell me what you guys, are working on and what you guys did do versus telling me what you can't do.
I think the directions were a little bit unclear because I feel like when I sent everything out to Roz, like she did a ton of work on this, and like I was expecting just a couple of sentences, and she went above and beyond on that. And I feel like maybe we could ask for more specific feedback and ask for the format we want it.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know what everyone else's experience was, but like I didn't really know what I was asking for when I was asking for it. I think as I got the responses back and kind of looked at the spreadsheet, it kind of made a lot more sense.
Okay.
Well, also, yeah, this is our first year with it, and I think everybody's kind of getting, trying to, determine what the end product is to be and what's being measured. And I think that it's understandable that, getting our feet under us for this sort of thing. So, it stands to reason that there may be some inconsistency in the type of response we get, maybe. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I think part of the good thing is just the process makes everyone think about like, all right, did we kind of row towards where we're trying to go? Because sometimes if there's no way to looking back at this, you'll go 5 years and no one's really going to think about what was in the report anymore. At least this gives you a moment to pause and think back and say, okay, did we do what we wanted to do?
Oh, exactly. And it allows you to measure, the whole idea, remember with the master plan, our rationale when we were advocating to get a new one was to give something that will allow you to provide a rationale for decision making for community leadership, whoever it may be, and then by using the master plan as a tool, work towards implementing the goals or objectives. This it establishes. My understanding was that it provides a level of accountability would be the wrong word, but you could see the direction that the town is moving based on the progress and by these boards and committees and other town staff and whatnot, and have a gauge of where you are and if you're making progress, and so I would think that there's going to be some growing pains as we get this process refined.
Yeah, I think Bill, I think you kind of summed that up, correctly in that, we worked at a number of ways to do this. We looked at possibly trying to use, I think we were trying to use a Google Doc for responses that would help narrow the responses to avoid, again, I don't mean to pick on poor Roz, she's not here to defend herself, but, but, I think she took like anything economic development related versus, going to the column that says that the EDC is the champion of this particular task. And I wanted to send that out to, and actually that's the reason why I included it was, she provided some useful feedback on items that weren't hers. But I think in the grand scheme of things, the ask was never supposed to be, hey, give us your thoughts on all of this stuff. I see that being a lot of work, where instead of it being, hey, can you provide us some feedback on where your committee is on these 3 or 4 items? And I know, John, you and I talked about that briefly while we were just out at Maynard Fest with some possible ideas of, do we break up the spreadsheet and send out just the items to a particular group so that they only respond to that, and we're not, there's some pros and cons. One of the big cons for this past session was, and I'll just give you what took me so long was, we ended up getting, I think we ended up getting 4 or 5 different full tables back from some of the different stakeholders, which then became an exercise in looking at all 4 of them to try and put together responses. Most of them were not duplicated. However, some of them were not only duplicated, but I got 2 responses from, I think, Armand, one was from, I think, the Board of Selectmen through both the TA and the ATA, and I got 2 different responses for one item. And I believe that we actually have them all captured here. But what I'd like to do in the future is sort of avoid that. One, obviously, if 2 people are doing the work, that's doubling the work for something that really doesn't need to be doubled. And then the other one is it will take less time to sort of wrap these up, summarize them, and get them into the table. And rather than me getting this out in July, I'm hoping to get this out in January or February this coming year. So that being one. So I see, Susan, you.
Yeah, is there a
Did you
way
wanna
to
jump?
make the spreadsheet less like big? Like there's a lot of columns that by the time you kind of scroll over to your spot, you kind of forget what the goal was.
She's right. You're right. It
So
is
I
a big,
mean, yeah, it's very hard to
You
like
can,
over.
you should be able to lock a column like the header on the left side. Maybe we can send it out locked next time. So that way, when you scroll, that rule you're looking at stays pinned.
Yeah,
It's a
no,
feature.
it's just, yeah, it's big. Anyway, it's hard to maneuver if you're not an Excel expert on locking things, so.
I think maybe what you were saying before of maybe doing like a Google Forms or a Survey Monkey type of option this year that would then provide us with a table. It would provide all the results in the table format, but maybe easier for individuals to do.
Yeah, I think that was, I don't think we had considered SurveyMonkey. I think it came up, I think Google Docs, other folks may, or Google Forms, excuse me. Google Forms was recommended. And I know Bill heard me as I kind of came back with some other folks and said, I have no idea how those work. And we have somebody who does. And I think we ended up with something that was put together, but it it wasn't sort of fully formed, and to try and get it out to folks, I was worried was going to be more confusing. I know originally we simply had a paper form that we were going to ask people to fill out and then add it to literally add it into the spreadsheet by hand.
I would be happy to help out with getting that into either Google Forms. I just say SurveyMonkey because the town has an account. I honestly think Google Forms sometimes produces a better result. It depends on like what if you're doing a survey versus data analysis. But yeah, Jason, if you want to, we can go through, kind of a beta version and see how you like it. And then, because it's very easy and quick. So I don't mind taking that on.
Okay, yeah, I mean, if you have time, really, it's appreciated. Like I said, I know you did a ton of work just in the spreadsheet between pulling together. I know conservation. I think you had TA and DPW's, 50, 60 different items that came from Justin. So, if that cuts down on that, I'd be thrilled.
Yep, no problem.
Okay. So I think,
Yeah, so, I see this, I can see how what Susan's saying,
yeah, no,
Yeah.
I agree. It is, unless you're working on, I will confess that I eventually ended up printing a set and putting it on my 48-inch screen television in order to be able to see enough at a scale that I could read it. And that was hiding columns, and it is a lot. I will, I don't always work smarter. I'll leave it at that. But okay. Let's see. Bill, I know you have that up.
And where would you like me to
I
go?
don't know. Yeah, I guess I'm questioning whether, and I guess I'll take feedback from the group as to whether, is it worth going through them, or if I know if some folks haven't had a chance to really go through them, would you like to take some time and do that? And we can start to look at and I hate to call it the quality of the response, but look at those responses at a future meeting, because I think at this point, we're getting into October, we're pushing toward November. I'm probably more inclined to spend our time tonight, what time we have left. Again, I don't want to hold anybody up because I was tardy here, but I think I'd rather spend the time we have tonight, at least for right now, with a little bit of a discussion of getting out in front of our respective liaison groups and getting them prepared for, starting to reach out to our groups and find out, what did they do this year? What did they do in calendar year 22? Getting them prepared to sort of go through this cycle again. So we can start to get ready, get our form, get our information back and start to get our data for next year for our annual report. I know folks have a preference, but I'm happy to talk. I'm happy to go through and look at the responses.
Yeah, I want to make it clear though, to what end? Like what is looking at the responses how's that going to benefit the group? Are we looking to improve our questions? Are we looking like, I want to make sure we leverage our time intelligently. And I think I need a clearer goal to understand, like what would be the point of reading through the responses as a team?
Sure. So again, whether it be as a group or not, the goal of looking through these responses to see if they are pertinent, to see I'm going to tell you now, there are some that came back where the goals are no longer applicable.
Mhm.
And that is our charge, is to go through to look at some of those things, and as we go forward, maybe to change goals or revise goals or eliminate goals. And that is that is my goal here on the looking at those responses. Are there ways that we can help, similar to what I've just heard? Are there ways that we can make it easier for people to respond if we think the responses are confusing, or if we're finding that people are not able to do so?
Do you think it would be
Does
beneficial
that help, Brian?
for the representatives to do that offline and then come back with a list of goals that were perhaps not no longer relevant, and then prune from there? Because it sounds like we have three distinct issues. We don't know if the questions are worded in a way that solicit a good response. We don't know if the medium the questions are delivered is effective, and we don't know if the goals, or excuse me, if some of the goals are still relevant, whether the task has been completed or the commission or the related committee has decided to not pursue that for whatever reason. So to be frank, we're not going to get through 124 things in an hour 15. And I don't know if, all of us need to go through all of them. So
Well,
I wonder
if a goal is achieved, would be the only way it would be removed arbitrarily. I mean, it wouldn't be like we just, I don't think the role of the committee would be to say, we don't think it's important to do this goal anymore. It would just, but there are some that we've achieved,
great. Yeah.
and that would be important. And maybe it would help, because I understand what Brian's saying, and I get that. Maybe it would be good to take one item from one of these that has, walk through it together as a group, just one item, and talk about what we want to take away from the discussion about that item and what we would do to that information. And, what we follow up with on it, and see if there's something that jumps out that maybe there's a better way to solicit this information next year towards, to see if they're working towards the goal. Part of the reason, and I would think, and the group can correct me if I'm wrong, but I would also think part of this is because annually we want the boards and committees that are in, while they may have varying levels of influence or power or whatever the case may be, we want to ensure that they are using the master plan as a blueprint in general. So that's part of this too. So, if somebody says, yeah, okay, we know what's in the master plan. So, because these are volunteers and not everybody has time to probably even look at the master plan. But you would certainly hope that, when you're dealing with a decision, that the master plan is at least consulted as part of this. So, maybe one item would help, or maybe that's a goofy idea, I don't know. But would that help?
I think we should also think about recognizing and those that have achieved the goals. I think it would be nice to, recognize that.
Yeah, it's a good point.
Is this document the only way that we've received updates about goals from the committees?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. It probably would make sense to collate this data, at least the things that we have, and say okay, from last year, this percentage of goals have been marked as ongoing. From not started, this percentage have been marked as completed. That kind of wrap up seems like a useful thing to present to people. And then prune from the ones that have been completed. But I'm sorry, that was not, Bill asked a question and we didn't really address it. If we want to run through one of the goals, I think that's reasonable. But I think an action that somebody should take at the end of this meeting, I don't know if that's you, Jason, it could be to, do a little data analysis on that, because that would look great in a newsletter or an announcement, to the town and their committees, and be look at how much progress we're making against the master plan. We need some quantitative representation of that.
Yeah, and I think that's so, Brian, just that was what was done with this when it came in, to the best that we could with the data we had for the annual town report. That got pulled in. Now I will, as far as what has changed, which is I like that where you went with that. Because we were starting at year one. Well, we were starting at basically year zero. So everything that we had was simply, what did we start? And there were numeric, I think I had in there, I did have in some quantitative of, of this many goals, we saw this many are in progress. I don't think, Bill, my recollection is I don't think we had anything that really closed out any of the goals, because a great number of our goals are, cyclical, or there's not a lot of one-off goals, but I think maybe we might have had one or two. I don't remember having finished anything though. But I think in this case, where you were going, Brian, was, this being our second year, yeah, we're going to see, what I'm hoping to see is that the progress that we started last year is now going to expand to, yep, we did these, we're keeping these plates spinning, and we started spinning 3 more, and going from there. That's what I'd like to see. And I think in the reporting, and I say the reporting, the responses, I think if we can make things easier for folks to respond, and I've heard those things tonight of how we can possibly do that, and I'm excited to do that, because again, this was a heck of a time sink to try and pull all these things together from a lot of different places. So if there's anything we can do to streamline it, I'd love to do that, make that sort of the process, and be able to kind of move that along going forward, to make this a little bit more of again, to have a little bit more of a procedure in place versus trying to figure it out every year. I really don't want to do that. So, again, I don't know that we need to go through any of them as far as the quality goes. Like I said, in the long term, part of what we're going to be doing is looking at, and I hate to say this, are we getting, are we just getting token responses? If we're just getting token responses, I'd like to try and eliminate the token responses. And I felt that some of the DPW responses, and I'm not singling them out, just they were the group that I was looking at. They were the group that I was liaising to. And that was the one where I know they had a lot of them where it was, again, yeah, we wanted to do this, but we didn't have any budget for it. I'd like to kind of more get folks to focus on what they have done, what they can do, and less on the other stuff. So obviously, if we didn't touch it, there's a reason for that. So,
Well, maybe there's a way that the group can consider that would be easier for the respondents to give us the information that we wanted. And is Julia still on, or I know she has another meeting.
No, she had to jump off for the 7 o'clock meeting. So
and a recreation committee is going on now. But something the system, clearly we're designing it, and I don't have all the answers. I don't have any answers, but I think that if we could figure out a way to simplify it for next year, this is for the respondents to get what we want. And it does require a certain familiarity with the master plan. So, we don't want to lose that. We don't want, we don't want to just say, well, what'd you do this year, obviously, and how does it?
Yeah, I'm sorry, Brian, go ahead.
I was just going to say, we're not going to be able to control how people respond, right? Their answers are going to be poor if they're not interested, especially if it's a free text kind of format, right? You give somebody the opportunity to just elaborate, they're going to just talk, right? Maybe there's a balance between sending out, maybe we do a kind of Google form or SurveyMonkey per primary committee, and you list all of their goals on there, and then give them very drop down only questions like, did you complete this goal? No, if not, why, or what progress it's in? Because that would give us really measurable data, and they would have to answer for each goal. That's just one idea. But yeah, we're not going to be able, if we give people free text, they're just going to write whatever, and we're not going to be able to really pull conclusions from that, I think, easily.
So Brian, can you see the screen right now?
Yeah.
if you take one of those, for example, any of these.
Yep.
Continue to promote beautification with a focus on street state, scuba, et cetera, this one.
Yep.
Okay. And where we put, cultural council, DPW, EDC, planning board and stuff. How? I mean, using what you're saying, like with a pull down or something like that. I mean, do you see that working on something like that where we could say, like, for example, John's on this call right now. John is working kind of in a hybrid of EDC and cultural council in his beautification efforts with streetscape improvements. I've done stuff, with that would probably fall under planning board or whatever the case may be.
Yeah. At the end of the day, if this doesn't get done, who is accountable? I mean, that's the question I would ask, and that's who the question should go to. Like, I understand there might be a lot of contributors to any given goal, but if we're asking for somebody on a status update of a goal, it should be the person who is ultimately responsible for the completion of that goal. So is it somebody from PZD?
So yes, the answer there, Bill, is yes. This is where only the implementation ownership column is that they're the ones who are going to get this. What they need to tell us is yes, and this is where the concern was with PZD, with Planning and Zoning Division, owning so many things that it becomes running through you and Julia, trying to do all of these. And are you coordinating with the Cultural Council and the DPW and the EDC and the Planning Board? And sort of to what we were talking about there, I think if you were to take this, and Brian, I think you're kind of hearkening back to, I think, what we had originally envisioned the Google form to be, which was more of a drop down and not a free text, because then we had kind of zero control.
Mhm.
And in the form that we ultimately sent out, hindsight being 2020, I think I tried to frame those questions as, giving them sort of 5 questions and looking for sometimes saying like looking for a yes or no, or I don't want to say a short answer. I encourage people, if they wanted to write more and give us more information, that's great. I think what I'd rather have seen and what I'd rather see going forward is that, yeah, there are going to be a handful of things. Did you start it? A drop down that says not started, ongoing, completed, versus, where are you at? Or what's your status? Less open-ended. I think more drop downs would be great. And if that's something Julia can help us with, I'm certainly excited to see that, and certainly give people an opportunity to provide some free thought and provide feedback outside that box. But that would take us a long way toward making this a little bit more consistent and a little bit easier to manage. I don't know if other folks have any thoughts on that, or like I said, I think, Brian, yeah, I do agree. I think that's kind of where we started going when we started looking at the Google Doc or Google form, excuse me. But again, the fact that I call a Google form Google Docs is pretty indicative of the level of experience I have with that particular tool. I guess it being pretty much 7 o'clock. I don't know if other folks have to jump off, and again, I apologize for my lateness. I don't know that necessarily, Brian, I generally agree. I don't know that there's a lot of benefit to us going through them. I certainly don't want to go through them if part of the group hasn't even had a chance to look at them yet, knowing that they've been kind of floating around out there for a while. I'm certainly not going to say we should take some time now to do that. I think when folks take a look through them, I think generally folks may look through them and say, yeah, these seem like reasonable answers. Maybe I'd like to see a little bit more, but I think that's a conversation we have after folks have taken a look.
And do you think it would
I
be?
think that would be.
I'm sorry, am I muted? I tapped out. No, sorry, I'm not. Do you think it would be beneficial for the committee members to only look at the goals that they're responsible for, they're liaising for, or would you want comment from everyone on everything?
No, I mean, I think, well, put it this way, I would say, I would start with, you know, if you want to take a look at what you were liaising with and make sure that, you know, those are, one, make sure they're accurate, two, make sure, or see if, you know, see how you know, take a look at that feedback. Is it reasonable? Again, I don't think there's a lot of feedback that wasn't reasonable feedback. I more so want to get, you know, kind of the pulse of the group on what we got back. I would encourage folks, though, if you take a look through, you know, start with your area of liaison ownership, and you know, certainly if you went through and looked at some of the other ones, you know, I think because we do have a lead and a secondary liaison. You know, I think Brian, you and I were kind of on, I think, DPW. Right, I know you had jumped on some other ones. You know, take a look at DPW, because I'd be interested in your feedback on some of those. But I would say, yeah, I mean, if folks, you know, if you're interested and if you have the time, I'd love your feedback on, you know, looking at those other things. If you don't, then yeah, I'd say please concentrate on yours. Again, making sure that we kind of got everything, that we sort of captured those, and also, you know, that's helpful in tailoring. You know, if you look at those, and again, I don't think there's any that anybody would be unhappy with, but if you look at that and you say, you know, I'd like to see a little more detail, or hey, why didn't you guys do this thing, or hey, why didn't you take credit for this thing? You started working on this. Why didn't you take credit last year? You know, I think that goes a little ways toward helping kind of prompt everyone for this upcoming feedback cycle.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable. I don't, nobody else is talking right now. Additionally, you know, I'm typing while I'm talking because I'm already drafting up what I think a form could look like, and I'll send that out to the group if people want to see.
Probably be a big help.
Yeah, again, this is just my concept, but I think the balance between sending one document with no goals to each person and having to have Jason collate everything is we send, you know, we find who the implementation owner is and send a survey specifically to them with each of their goals, and then iterate through those questions, because the results will come through in a spreadsheet like this, and then we can collate them much easier. And then that way they have to answer for every goal, so we can see they can't just ignore and say like we didn't do these goals, right? And that way they also have all the goals in front of them. Could be really beneficial. But I'm very familiar with this. I can have this out, you know, 45 minutes from now, 30 minutes from now, an example of one of the, you know, I picked I forget which committee I picked, but yeah, I'll run through this and send it out after.
Okay, yeah, Brian, if you have time and you are interested, yeah, I'd love your help on that, because I know obviously Julia, you know, said she can help jump on that too.
Yeah, I can throw up a proposal, because I'm very familiar with this format.
Okay, no, I would appreciate it, because yeah, I think like I said, I know we tried it last year, and I think Brendan had sent me something, and again, it was more of a general thing. Mm-hmm. And it was a little less focused, and I do like the idea of a little more focused. I like the idea of a little more focused. I know, John, you and I had talked about, I think John and I had the same conversation briefly, standing in the middle of Mason Street, saying, what if we only sent out the goals for that committee? So.
Yeah, the more I look at this, you know, I think anything we can do to simplify it for the, you know, to respondents. I'm really curious to see what Brian has that simplifies it, because good Lord. Oh.
So, John, I saw you jumped off mute.
Oh, no, I was just gonna agree. Like, I think anything we do to simplify this, as well as like being able to summarize the data later, at least if it's all in the same format, it'll be easy to summarize.
Yep.
Like one of the drop downs you could be easily at the started, completed, not started, and
Yeah,
then you
I-
could just run an analytics on that.
Yeah. Here, I
Yeah,
can,
that's,
I
Yeah.
want to add multiple goals to this, but I mean, like, you could very easily, I want to see, sorry, I forget how to preview this. You could like you could very easily be like, you know, I did this for one goal, and you could repeat it ad nauseum for all the goals that like DPW has or whatever, right? And then when you run through this and check, you know, I worked with these committees, blah blah blah. What happens is this all goes to a spreadsheet that's specifically related to this form, or you can pick a spreadsheet to have all the information be dumped in. So it can happen automatically. So we could have multiple
Okay.
surveys, one for each committee, dumped to the same data source, the same Google Sheet. Yeah, it's really pretty intuitive and not hard to do.
yeah, I think the more, it's been said already a few times, but the more you simplify it and focus it, I think you're gonna get better responses, because people are gonna be mostly targeting, you know, the questions you're asking. And, yeah, definitely you wanna track who's making progress and, you know, where's the shortfall.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That's it.
Yeah, so let me draft this up. I'm happy to do that. I'll have that done tonight, and I'm just going to send it to Bill and Jason. You can send it out, you know, however you want. And as an example, and we don't have to, you know, my solution here is not final, but this is just an example of what we could do that we can iterate from there.
Yeah, that's very helpful.
Appreciated.
Yeah, absolutely. That's no problem.
So, Bill, did we have, I think we had one more item on that agenda, but you may have, that might be what you jumped into while I was.
I did the powder mill.
Stuff on
Let me pull it up here right quick. The agenda with the
Did
minutes.
Yeah, I have it here.
Nomination, we need some more,
Yeah,
No.
again, because we were short some folks. I mean, unless, again, if somebody wants to, somebody's eager to jump in as clerk, I'm happy to talk, happy to address it. But if folks want to wait till the next meeting, I did mean to also check to confirm the when everybody comes up for reappointment. I believe it's 23. So I think we're still a ways off. But the other thing actually was I did want to check in with folks is board organization. I realize I am remiss because we started sort of off cycle. We started in the winter and then we kind of went sort of a year and a half beyond that. At some point, yeah, we should potentially look at, or we should be looking at doing a board organization or a committee organization. So either electing a new chair, new vice chair. Obviously, we have to fill the clerk position, and I'll just reiterate, obviously right now I think we're down at least one member. So there's folks who are interested, folks
we're down just
who are
one
interested.
member.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think it's just Brendan. I know there was an email earlier, Bill, that you had sent out about looking for another representative, but I think as far as actual chartered members, we're only down one. So yeah, that's another thing that I think at this point, it's probably long time that you guys can oust me. Okay, with that, Bill, you ran through the powder mill at the beginning of the meeting?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's perfect for this group. So if you have an opportunity to join on one of the one of the focus groups, but at least it's good to be apprised of what's going on there. And we've set everything up pretty nicely on the website, I think, and thanks to MAPC on that. And it'll allow us to achieve. I mean, it's so consistent with all this stuff. It's a good thing.
Okay. Yeah, and I will say to folks on the call, I did sit in on a couple of them, at least the last presentation. That it's interesting. It's just to see some of the ideas. Encourage folks to do it. I would also just add quickly that, one of the requests in a recent comment from the TA was, this committee, and I don't try not to use the word endorse, but the potential of some projects being sort of sent to this committee for review. And, in general, I've tried to keep that, if we do sort of things like that, I've tried to keep that as a less of an endorsement of a project and more of an endorsement that the master plan guidelines were followed. So that's also one that's probably going to come up. It sounds like that there may be a little bit more of a formal process for that. Armand, I got that from Greg maybe a week or two ago in the message, the annual message, and I don't know if that's something that the Board of Selectmen has any more feedback on, or?
Well, I honestly don't agree with that. I mean, to your point, you got to be careful for, you don't want to endorse a potential project. I think your point is well taken. You just want to make sure that's aligned to a degree with the master plan, depending on what the project is. So we just want to make sure that it's aligned with the master plan, but that's not an endorsement. We just want to make sure that we're on track.
Yeah, again, I think that was, and that's been sort of the line I've taken. Even before, I know there's been a few projects where I know they have pressured Bill to ask me, and I've honestly not generally brought it. I've brought one of them before the committee, and we had a discussion about it. But I've generally told people that, at least as my time as a chair, that, I'm not asking the committee to endorse a project. I will simply ask the committee to vote in favor of whether or not, again, it complies with the master plan.
Mm-hmm.
Did we do things that are, did it go through the correct groups? Did it get the right reviews? Does it follow our general guidance? Does it follow the community development guidelines? But not, I don't want to put people in that. I like to keep this as sort of apolitical as possible. We have a charter in that.
Yeah, that'll do it. No, that would do it. That's what I'm saying. I mean, the idea, it takes that, if there's a project that's controversial for whatever reason, each side, it approaches a level where it might not be in the best interest of town, or maybe, I don't know, but at least that eliminates the question. Is it, because somebody's going to say it's not consistent with the master plan. It is consistent with the master plan. Heard that already. So we adopted the plan in 2020. I hear it quite a bit, so that's a good thing. Yeah.
But yeah, if folks have a different opinion, I'm open to it. But like I said, I think we've got a list of goals, some 100 and some deep, that in general, it's are we following those goals? And I'll be honest, we've already had one or two where I had people on both sides say, well, this goal says this, and then the people on the other side go, well, this goal says this, and I said, well, then you guys need to figure it out. So you know what the goals are, so I applaud you. But okay, just looking at the
that's all I have on the agenda.
Yeah, I just kind of wanted to see if I could grab everybody here right now and find out if there's a time that is better or worse. We're going into holidays, so I certainly understand if folks want to push beyond that time. But I'm open to either something in early December, or we can go right to early January. Anybody?
When do we need to have responses back from our groups and to be able to compile them?
So I want to say that they came. Bill, do you remember when we got everything in last year? I want to say it was right up against we didn't even have everything in by the deadline for the town annual report, which I believe is like the middle of February.
Yeah, it's about there.
So again, I think that might be a little bit, responses might be made a little bit more timely, simply because I think we're going to, for what we talked about tonight, we're going to sort of narrow things down, make things a little bit more user friendly. So that should enable us to turn things around more quickly. But a target of the end of January would be preferred.
Okay.
I would suggest then that we meet earlier rather than later. That's still pretty short notice.
Maybe I send out a doodle poll for early December.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I'm good with that. I just don't want to. Other people got other things going on, so.
If we keep them to a strict hour, that's not a big deal. It should fit just well, just fine.
Okay, I think we can do that, and I think ideally, yeah, Brian, I will loop back with Julia too, because she was talking about putting a draft together too, so I can take what you've done. We can possibly split off to a quick subcommittee call.
Yeah,
to go
I
through
actually
that
just
too.
draft mine up if you want to look at it real quick.
Sure. Bill, can
Yeah,
Brian share his screen?
Yeah, I got it.
I think you can.
We're good. I want screen 2. Yeah, this is really easy. So like, this is just an example. So I don't even know, what does RC even stand for? I totally forget already. The committee.
What next thing?
Implementation, ownership, RC, these goals.
Recreation.
Recreation.
Oh, recreation.
Great. So this is just an example of what it could look like. I didn't do any formatting. I didn't color it. So like this is what the respondent would see. They would drop onto a page with a title where I said like, okay, this would say recreation committee instead of RC. And hi, you're going to get a series of questions about a single goal for each page, answer each question, hit next to the bottom. So you're done. Right. And then each page would just be, and we could elaborate on the instructions. I did this together in 15 minutes. So here's the first goal: centralize information on the town's open space and recreational resources for easy public access. And all of these questions can be customized as well. I literally just pulled the ones that we had in the spreadsheet. So it's like, okay, what is the status of your efforts that contribute to solving this goal? Okay, we started something. What did you do? I totally just BS'd. Like, I was like, what actions did you take? We could be more specific, right? Like, I wrote a bylaw and got some funding. Great. If you didn't start it or it's not being pursued, why? We didn't have funding. And then who'd you coordinate with? Bam, bam, bam. And then each page is just one of the goals, right? So my idea is that we would send for each committee who's the primary respondent this a survey that has each of their goals on there, and this just repeats ad nauseum. Again, the formatting, the color, the questions we ask can all be changed. That's very easy, but this is potentially something we could do. And then what happens is when we would fill this out, it would get dumped to, like I said, a spreadsheet in Google Sheets here, and we could pick one spreadsheet and then all the data would get dumped here. It's actually really cool. And what happens is that we could also kind of clean this up, but basically what it's going to do is it's just going to pull in each question and put their information here. So we don't have to do any of that by hand.
I love it.
Perfect. I love it.
Great.
So I'm still going to send this to you. You should send it out. We should do a little more brainstorming what we want, but this is something that can be very easily done.
Just send it to everybody.
Yeah, I don't have everybody's email, so I'm going to send it to the two of you and let you deal with it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Send it to Bill and me, and then we'll get it out to everybody.
Yeah, that sounds good. And like I said, I can make changes, and we can figure out, if there's a town Google Drive, it can live there, and the person who manages that email can do all of that, for all that. But yeah, let me send the link out in email, and you guys can just click on this link, and it'll work.
And we're asking for feedback from the big board or for the committee.
Yeah, I think that's
right. And we'll say maybe by we get set a 30-day, maybe less. It's better. But okay, great. That looks great.
Yeah, we need to be careful, Bill. We got to be careful. We don't want to run afoul of open meeting laws. So it can come in, we've got to do it. We've got to do it at a meeting also.
Yeah,
Feedback?
all right. I just sent that out. So you let us know what you want to do with that. If we want to use it or another method or adjust the questions, that's probably a good use of our time.
Good. I'll send it
Very
out. Excellent. Okay, that's good.
All right. So with that, I don't know if anybody has anything else. Oh, Amy, are you?
Yeah,
Were you
you know,
talking? You
I
were-
just like to say, I really love the clarity you brought here, Brian. I really think that discussing these goals has been really important. I know for the Cultural Council that it really woke us up when we were writing our objectives for the year, that we had this list in front of us. And I think it really worked well for last year. I'm not sure how far we got with it, but I think that if we do this annually, there are a lot of committees, a lot of groups in Maynard that'll come out with a lot more success because they're following this opportunity to, fit the master plan. So anyway, my nickel's worth. You guys have done a great job. Thank you. I think it was really useful.
Thanks, Andy. Amy, I saw you were talking, but you were on mute.
Oh, I was cursing at the cat. That's why I was on mute.
Oh. Very good. Okay.
You couldn't read
yeah.
my lips to see what I was saying, could you?
No,
No,
I wasn't.
okay.
I saw your lips move, and I went,
Yeah.
oh, and then Andy
Oh,
was
yeah.
talking. So yeah, I didn't get the full lip read.
No. That's good.
Okay. No, again, I appreciate everyone's time tonight. I say I only let everyone go. Bill put something out for early December. Brian, I appreciate you sending that over. I may give you a call offline just to maybe coordinate with Julia, because she has been the one. She helped kind of pull together a lot of the stuff on this last year. We're using the spreadsheets and sort of kind of keeping a OneDrive and some of that stuff going. So
Yeah, I don't want to usurp anybody's responsibility, so I'm happy to support wherever.
no, believe me, I think anybody, if you're willing to do it, everyone is willing to let you do it. So I'll encourage you. But yeah, we'll send out the doodle for early December. Hopefully by then we'll have something out to everybody on a new form. Like I said, if anything, and I know this form is now in flux a little bit, and how the instructions are going to change to the groups, but and if you can warn your different groups that it's the end of the year and we'll be soliciting feedback, it'd be good just to sort of prime the pump with them. I know I've already reached out to DPW, knowing how many they have and knowing how hard it is to get a hold of Justin. So, but John, I know EDC is sort of a question mark right now. So
we have a meeting coming up soon. I'm in a couple of weeks, I think. I have to go back and look at the calendar. I do remember seeing an email on that.
Yeah, but I don't think we nailed down a date yet, John.
Oh. Okay.
I know it's out there and everybody's chiming in, but I don't think they nailed down a date. So.
What up?
So I mean, in that
again,
situation, is that something that I could just fill in the responses myself? Because I've got a good being in all those meetings. I have a good feeling for kind of where things are.
Yeah, I mean, again, oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I could help you with that too, John, if you want.
Sure, I'd welcome it.
Okay, very good. Well, again, I appreciate everyone. I apologize again for my being late this evening, and I appreciate everybody's feedback very much, and look forward to having another meeting before 6 months from now. So I will let everybody go and enjoy the rest of your evening.
Hi, everybody.
Thank you all.
Thank you, everybody. Have a pleasant evening.